Hello, everyone. I think that almost everyone has come back from the lunch break. Thanks for being here with us. And I would like to first introduce myself. I'm Boglárka János Kuti. I'm a board member at the Hungarian Child Rights Coalition, and I will be facilitating this panel today about the access of AI and justice context. And I am happy to see that we are still quite a few number of people here interested about this topic. And first of all, let me present to you the panelists of this session. I will just go ahead by the order of appearance. So Fanni Somfai, she's from Terre des Hommes Foundations. She's a project officer of the iACCESS MyRights initiative, aiming at enhancing access to justice for children with AI tools. And besides that, she is also a volunteer legal advisor at the Future Vision Association. So great to be here, to have you here with us, Fanni. And then I move on to our next panelist, who is Giampiero Lupo. He's a PhD researcher at the Research Institute on Legal Informatics and Justice Systems at the National Research Council in Italy. And he has been participating in several EU projects related to the impact of AI technologies in the judicial systems. His main scientific interests are artificial intelligence and justice, e-justice, and deliberative democracy. And then let me move to Heta. Heta Pukki, who is the president of an umbrella organization called the European Council of Autistic People. The abbreviation is EuCAP. And she has been closely involved with an EuCAP project on artificial intelligence and the rights for autistic people that she will be elaborating on later on. And she's also working on the Erasmus Plus project, Digital for All, which helps developing peer training for people with disabilities. And last but not least, let me introduce to you Szilvi Gyurkó, who is a children's rights advisor and founder of the Hintalovon Child Rights Foundation, ECPAT Hungary. And the goal of the foundations include to prevent child abuse, to strengthen child participation, and also to support child safeguarding programs in Hungary and also in the Eastern European area. And unfortunately, one of our panelists, the child participant, couldn't be here, and also another expert on children's rights and AI technologies, British expert Susan Sandon. She is not present either, but I had the chance to record a phone interview with her. So we'll be listening to that phone interview. I will ask my technical colleagues to just play it now. Thank you.
Hello, Susan. It's been a long time since our last meeting. How are you? Everything is going fine?
Hello. It has been a while, hasn't it? I'm doing well, thank you. How about you?
Great, thanks. I'm also doing fine, and I really appreciate your availability and that you can share with us your expertise on children's rights and technologies. So, could you please briefly summarize the impact of AI on children's rights?
Sure. AI can improve education and healthcare for children, but also poses risks to privacy, data security, and exposure to harmful content. Balancing innovation with protection is key.
Thanks for this meaningful summary. My other question is about the recent case of a child protection worker who has asked ChatGPT to assist in drafting a protection application report. Can you comment on this case?
I can't comment on recent events, but using AI for drafting reports in child protection could improve efficiency. However, it's crucial to ensure accuracy, confidentiality, and human oversight in such sensitive matters.
Yes, I agree totally. My last question would be, do you have an idea about impactful AI projects on children's rights on the horizon?
Yes, there are projects focusing on personalized learning, online safety tools, and healthcare applications. These aim to enhance education, protect children online, and improve medical care.
Thanks. Thanks a lot for such insightful comments. It's been really great talking to you, and I would really love to continue this conversation. Are you maybe available next week for a longer meeting?
You're welcome. I'd love to continue our conversation. While I don't have a schedule, I'll be here whenever you're ready to chat again. Just drop by next week and we'll pick up from where we left off. Ask away.
Okay, so as you might have guessed, I have been speaking to ChatGPT, and this is a brilliant example, I think, of the fact that AI is already here with us in our everyday lives, even if not in a physical form yet, but it has really blurred the line between human and machine intelligence. It has infiltrated to not only our lives, but also to the lives of our children, who are really interacting with AI from a very small age, through smart AI tools and tech education tools, chatbots, and all other stuff that we are not even aware of. And it is also predicted that AI is the largest disruptive change in our lifetime, even larger than the one that internet was. So is it good or bad? There are many controversial ways to approach this issue. Some think about AI as a savior and others as the evil. But what is true and what is really important to see, that it is developing at a very fast speed, and we have difficulties to keeping pace with that speed and to offer adequate guardrails in terms of ethics. And it is especially important to see that the long-term effects of AI are still unknown, the long-term effects on children's development. And they have to be regarded in a different way when we approach AI tools vis-à-vis children, because they are still in an evolving development. And that's why they need really to be thought carefully in advance. So we have also seen the proliferation of the AI tools, not only in the market and the commercial context, but also in the social justice context. And these AI tools have been really made useful to people living with vulnerabilities, such as also children or autistic people, to get access to their rights and to get access to justice in an easier way. However, that's a very complex topic, so I will just stop by here and let my panelists discuss about this more in depth through introducing their specific projects on AI. And my first panelist today, who will present briefly her project on AI called AIRA, the AIRA project, is Heta Pukki. So please, Heta, could you be so nice and start your presentation? Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to thank the Validity Foundation for the opportunity to speak at this fascinating event. Could I have the first slide there? Thank you. So adding to the introduction a little bit, UCAP is an organization that UCAP as an organization connects organizations led by autistic people specifically. I'm the president of UCAP and I am autistic. I'm also the mother of 2 autistic daughters. Also, I am vision impaired and I have trouble hearing in ordinary background noise. All of these put me at a slight disadvantage with networking. I'm very happy to talk to any of you, but I may have trouble recognizing you or hearing you. So please approach me if you want to ask anything about this. AI and the Rights of Autistic People is a project funded by the European Artificial Intelligence and Society Fund and running until the end of 2025. So the original motivation why we wanted to start this project was that we were approached, we were asked for an opinion as an autistic people's organization about emotion regulation technology. Was it good for us? How did we see it should be regulated? And we found that we had a lot to say and our voice was missing in this field. We obviously had things to say that no one else was saying. We also found out that we did not know enough and we did not fully agree with each other. So we couldn't give a clear answer to how much regulation, what kind of regulation. So we recognized the need for a project that would map autistic people's views and bring them into these discussions. And very conveniently, there was a call for proposals from the AI Fund, which we took. The purpose of this project is to, above all, build the capacity of autistic people and our organizations to advocate for ourselves in matters related to AI. And towards this purpose, we have mapped research literature and uses of AI that target autism specifically. We have mapped views of autistic people on ways of using AI, and we have consulted a number of experts to identify more issues. We have created training materials for NGO use. In the first year, we created the literature review. We mapped views by survey. We did a series of consultations. We networked with the ecosystem of grantees that were receiving grants on similar themes. And we've trained the project team, our board members and activists from around Europe. And we have come up with an absolute wealth of information and views. A literature review, for example, showed that there were over 1,000 articles targeting autism with AI specifically. Diagnosis being the most common topic, interventions being the second, and we saw an absolute total absence of autistic people's views, while participatory research is the thing at the moment in most autism research. Our survey showed what concerns autistic people have about AI. With regard to diagnosis, we fear that it might repeat the developers' biases while creating an illusion of objectivity. We fear that it will be used without human oversight, and that we will never be able to capture the complexities. We also have positive expectations that it should make diagnosis faster, cheaper, and more commonly available, which is an enormous need in this field. About interventions, we fear that AI will exacerbate oppression and inequality. For example, if we go back to that first question we received, that emotion recognition will be used in interventions that try to teach so-called correct reactions and emotions, instead of recognizing our diversity and accepting our right to our natural forms of expression. We fear that it will be used to enhance interventions that the majority of autistic adults consider harmful, primarily applied behavior analysis. And this is an enormous division in the field of autism. It's not common in other disability areas. And we as autistic adults fear that ABA as such tends to train children to be compliant, used to having their expressions of discomfort dismissed, and unable to maintain ordinary boundaries, and therefore vulnerable to abuse. We also have seen things that give us, reason for optimism. We have seen applications coming on the market that we feel will probably help a lot of autistic people. In our second year, we've been focusing on finding researchers, organizations, and allies whose causes align with ours. We are preparing to advocate. We're just starting a webinar series. We're working on policy recommendations, and we are preparing to carry out trainings for advocates in 4 countries in January, February. Our end of second year is there. And I would like to point out specifically that there is the first of our webinars is tomorrow. It is very relevant to the themes of this conference. If you don't want to miss the conference but want to see this, please register and get our video recordings afterwards. Absolutely fascinating researchers that we have there. In the second year also, we have talked about AI and autistic joy, discussing how we are discovering tools and creatively using them for things like executive function support and communication support. And in these circles, joy is a massively important thing. We want children to discover these toys. We want them to create a sense of agency. We want them to enjoy what they're doing with AI, and we totally believe that that will empower them and help them to be more safe and secure. In the third year, starting March, we will link the results of these projects with our youth advocacy project Activate. It's an Erasmus project where we're involved, and also the digital skills training project, Digital for All, where I'm currently working. And we wish to reach autistic youth and autistic people with learning disabilities and bring the benefits of this AIRA project to them. So we hope that we can create ways to empower these groups to recognize risks, to be aware when AI is being used, and to discover those ways that can actually protect and empower them. And we will start to address the implementation of the AI Act, particularly paying attention to Article 5.1b, which in our view is a little bit problematic in it seems to allow protection against cognitive manipulation to everyone except autistic people, and particularly autistic children who are having, ABA and related methods used with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heta, for giving us an overview about autistic people's participation in AI projects and also the lack of involvement of themselves. And now I will just hand on the floor to Fanni to introduce the iACCESS MyRights chatbot, which is a chatbot designed for children. And I would like you to also comment on why AI was the best solution to your problem and what is the added value of AI in the project. So you can just stay here as you wish, if it's more comfortable, and I will just let you the mic.
Okay, thank you, Bogi, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. So the main idea behind the iACCESS MyRights project came from several internal researches. On digital platforms, there are no reliable, age-appropriate and child-friendly legal information for those children who suffer from or witness abuse, violence, or are involved in criminal proceedings. So these children often can face with misleading or inappropriate online legal information. Our mission was to explore the AI's potential in the justice system for children. So through this initiative, we developed an AI chatbot for children, which provides age-appropriate and child-friendly legal information. And this tool can basically simplify the legal terminology and help children to understand their rights and roles in criminal proceedings. This chatbot is now implemented in 3 countries, Bulgaria, Romania, and Greece, and this is multilingual, so children have access in the each three project countries' languages, and also in English. I would like to highlight that we established 3 child advisory boards in each countries, and these children participated in the design and development period very actively, and we integrated their feedbacks and inputs into AI solutions. And why do we think that this is a good solution? We believe focusing on prevention, this could significantly reduce the workload of human-led services, such as child rights lawyers and child protection services, and also based on children's feedback, because this is a private, anonymous, and non-judgmental tool. This tool can help them to open up, and if they, of course, don't have a trusted adult around them, and help them to understand their situation. But this is not, so developing an AI tool is not the only pillar of our initiative, because we also would like to open up a dialogue. We would like to disseminate our learnings and best practices, and we are organizing in the project countries child-led awareness-raising campaigns and roundtables. So we believe this is not just about the AI tool, this is a longer journey, and we would like to explore AI's potential in the justice system.
Thank you so much, Fanni. It is really great to see that you are already in such a phase of this implementation, that you have already feedback from the children themselves and that they were all involved in this whole process. So we are really looking forward to the official launching of this chatbot. And now I will just give the floor to Szilvi to have a brief presentation also about the Hintalovon project on chatbots. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I can really connect to Fanni's project because I would like to share a story of more or less similar chatbot we developed like 5 years ago. Hintalovon Foundation is running a child rights clearinghouse, which means that we provide free legal aid services in cooperation with 5 big law firms here in Hungary, like delle, Pipers, Lowell's, and Dantons. And in cooperation with these legal firms, we could manage like 400 cases per year, which means that we have 2 lawyers in-house in that time, I mean, like 5 years back, and we have additional 15, 20 lawyers working in those big law firms. So it was like a huge, not industrial, but it was a huge stuff we could manage, but still, we struggled managing all the child rights cases and handling 400 child rights violations per year is just not something which is like a good process. We had a waiting list continuously, which means that we had no enough capacity to answer all the needs and all the questions people just sent to us. So in 2019, we sat down and tried to figure out how to solve this situation. There were more than one potential solution faced there. The first one, maybe we could scale up our team and just convince more lawyers to provide free legal aid services and pro bono services. The second version was to move towards litigation, which means that we select just some cases, and not 400 per year, but like 10 cases per year, and we run litigation and focus on important cases. And the third version was to use AI and develop a chatbot where people can find answers for simple child rights violation related questions. The first step was streamlining the cases, which means make a distinction between complex cases where still human resources needed, cases where we have to provide an intersectorial, multidisciplinary support to the child, to the family, which means that in collaboration with a psychologist, a social worker, and a lawyer. But we could recognize that the majority of the cases are quite simple, and they are patterns. In case of custody, divorce, basic bullying cases, simply to answer for a lawyer. Of course, it's not as simple to the client, to the child, but for us, it was a simple task to figure out and patternizing answers and build it in a chatbot service. So we found a firm named Talkbot, and we contracted them, and we convinced the 3 companies, the Deutsche Telekom, the BP, and the Dantons to support our project financially. And then in 2020, we started this chatbot. So it was much more before the ChatGPT. And in the first 2 years, more than 2,000 people found answers in the chatbot. So it's really scaled up how many people we could reach out. And I believe that it was good to access for justice principles. But still, we faced problems that chatbot, so to say, was just not smart enough from the point of view of these days. It was just a responsive, mechanical bot sending answers we already prepared, and the only tool that chatbot had was recognizing in a question to the legal nature of an issue. So that was a problem, and when ChatGPT just emerged and this whole technology advanced so rapidly, we faced last year that our chatbot service is just not good enough. So we started figuring out a new firm and a new solution and a new approach. I still believe that it's a good tool, and I believe that we can also upgrade it. But at this moment, our chatbot doesn't work. We terminated the project till we find a new partner. 5 years back, it was an issue to find a good chatbot that speak and can use Hungarian as a language. So it was still an issue. In English, we could find very good chatbots, but in Hungarian, it was challenging. These days, it's not the similar situation. So at this moment, we are in this phase, but I'm really happy to share our experiences of this bot.
Thank you so much, Szilvi, and it's a very good point that you had just made about the advancement of this technology, because we have the chance to have a look at the Terre des Hommes iACCESS chatbot for in a demo small version that Fanni has prepared, but that we have omitted to show, and here you go.
Yeah, so this is our chatbot, and as you can see, I wrote a question into that bubble. The question was, I have to go to the court, and what will happen there? And you will see how our chatbot will answer this question in 1 minute. Yeah, I asked also who will be there. This is above just a short introductory. Here is the answer. Yes. This is the answer. Information about the child rights, judge and lawyers will be there, legal guardian, court staff, witnesses. So it explains how we'll be there at the court. And then I will scroll it down in a few seconds. It will also recommend I don't know, I waited a lot, sorry. So it will recommend some emergency lines or, so practical information and, phone number. So children can find some contact here as well. Yeah, so this is how our chatbot works.
Thank you, Fanni, to show this to us. And now, without further ado, I will jump into Giampiero Lupo's presentation that he will do about the AI use in the judiciary context and vis-a-vis legal professionals. So could you please just help us out in this? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Basically, in my institute, we have several projects that address the issue of the application of any type of technology, not just AI, so ICT technology, for all the activities that are related to the justice system. So here today I want to present just 3 of them that I think have some implication also for the work and for all the activities that we are doing in this conference. And one of them is the MetaJust project. This one, it addressed the issue of the use of metaverse technology for public services and also for the justice system. The idea has been not only studying this kind of technology, but also try an application through the implementation of a virtual tribunal. I think this is an interesting aspect here because it can be, I think one application can be the use of this kind of technologies for the audition of vulnerable witnesses or also vulnerable victims, for instance. One of the application has been also the creation of a virtual protected room where judges or parts of the proceedings can audition a witness through the support of a psychologist or any other kind of professionals using this kind of support. Another project is more related to the application of AI that goes in the direction of Chatbot, but also of providing legal information not only related to procedures, but also on the legal risks, so all the risks that are related to initiating a proceeding, is the IDEA project, which is also another international European project, which is funded by the European Commission, and which sees the application, the implementation of an AI system for the provision of legal information in both for justice professionals and citizens in general, so also with the application of a system for the simplification of language, but in the area of labor law. Of course, this is more related to the civil area of justice, but still we can see some implications of it for the criminal justice if we think about victims of labor, so all the condition related to the lack of safety mechanism in the working environments. And in that case, in order to provide predictions, of course, we cannot just base our system on the procedures, because we have to check also how the norms are applied in reality. So the main fuel of this kind of system are case laws. Case law. So all the cases already settled, which will be anonymized and given to the, let's say, to the machine in order to provide information on how a proceeding can get to an end. And finally, I think it is important to mention the LINK project. In this case, we worked on the study of the victims of crime with disability, children victims of crime with disability. And the end of the project has been the design of a blueprint of an AI system, or let's say generically an ICT system based also on AI and blockchain, for the support of all the justice professionals that work for the support of victims, and also for the access of justice of victims with vulnerabilities. The idea has been first to understand what is the state of the art of the environment, let's say in several member states, also thanks to the partners that works to the case study analysis for what regards all the procedural accommodation that are available in the country studied, and also regarding the state of the art of the development of the technology in the countries analyzed. The idea is that in Europe we have a very different level of development of technologies in justice systems. So in order to provide this kind of support, we have to imagine a very adaptive kind of system that can be adapted to several kind of contexts. And the system implemented, designed that can be implemented in a later project. We also applied for further funds in order to see a real application of the model. Basically consists of several functions that allow first of all, the exchange of communication between all the professionals that are connected for support service and protection for victims with vulnerabilities. So through, for instance, the implementation of several points of access where data can be gathered related to victims of crime, and also with the implementation of a centralized database case management system that can be accessed by all the professionals, including justice professionals, in order to use and gather this data when they are needed. At the same time, we also thought about that this data can be the fuel, as has been done in other contexts, for the creation through AI of a more predictive kind of functions. And Two of them relate to the assessment for the application of procedural accommodation related to several kinds of vulnerabilities, and also risk assessment related to, let's say, generically recidivism, or we may say the risk of repeated victimization or secondary victimization based on the data that are gathered. Of course, the main critical point is that we will deal with very sensitive data, so the security or cybersecurity aspect is, I think, very important, and that's why we also try to analyze the possibility to apply blockchain technology, which is one of the most, let's say, frontier technology for the securitization of data when they are exchanged in a context like the one that I'm describing. And also another aspect, of course, is accessibility. So we worked in parallel with our partners in Link project in order to understand which kind of assistive technology and AIC technologies can be applied for the use of this kind of assistant in the more inclusive way. And feel free to address any question about this kind of project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giampiero, for having explained to us these manifold applications of AI tools in your area of expertise in this context of legal professionals. And it is just linking us here to the ethical side and the ethical problematics that we encounter when using AI for good, and the responsible use of AI that should include also the balance between the right to data privacy and also, on the other hand, the right to reliable information and access to justice. And so how these two kind of considerations could be well addressed. So my first question, to go a bit more in deep into this issue, is that what are the main ethical dilemmas that you have identified? This question goes for all of you, regarding the responsible use of AI for children, for autistic people, and also in the judicial context, so for legal professionals. And so I will just give you the floor, and anyone who wants to first intervene, please go ahead.
As you can see that there are several chatbots on the market right now, and some of them are for children. However, this is in the commercial sector, so these are more profit-oriented than child-centered, we can say that. And for example, the companion chat agents for children, these aim to provide emotional support and entertainment for children. However, these are criticized by their addictive features, because children can form emotional attachment to a tool like this. And as a child rights expert, of course, we prioritize the child-friendly solutions and child rights aspects. And so for this, our solution for iACCESS chatbot was that we encourage children to talk with a trusted adult. We highlight that this is a robot, not a human being. The chatbot always sends messages and emphasizes that. And also we follow one question, one answer structure. With these solutions, maybe we can mitigate this risk, because this is a huge risk. And also I would like to mention another ethical risk, that is the hallucination. As you know that, for example, GPT and generative chatbots can provide incorrect or misleading information. And as children are still developing individuals and they have specific needs, they can't always differentiate between correct and incorrect information. And this is why our chatbot works with a closed and curated legal data set. and it can't learn from conversations with users. And another thing, so the chatbot also encourages children to double check all the information with a trusted adult, like parent, like teacher. And with these tools or solutions, we try to avoid or mitigate the hallucination. Also, we internally prepared the guide for us. So this, the name is Legal and Ethical Framework, Risk Assessment and Mitigation Strategy. And with this tool or document, we try to create a safe tool for children and follow these guidelines.
Okay, from the point of view of another chatbot, it was really interesting just listening what you mentioned, that you are highlighting that for the children to pose a question to the parents and to the teachers. And for our chatbot, and I believe it's really make a distinction between what is the goal and the purpose of our chatbot, and what is the needs and the interest of the child. In case of a legal chatbot that provides legal services to the children, it's really tricky to send the kids to the parents and the teacher, because they have no legal knowledge. So what is the goal there? Of course, a ChatGPT can't be there physically, so it's really important that parents and teachers can answer to the emotional needs to the child. ChatGPT is not good if they are the emotional support of a child, but still a ChatGPT can be a closed circle of legal advices. Of course, it's an ethical issue, but still a legal issue that at least in Hungary, there are legal norms that regulate who can provide a legal service and what is the quality, the minimum quality that you have to provide when you give a legal advice to someone. So, of course, we had to develop a lot of disclaimers, what the ChatGPT is and what is not. But still, I strongly believe that if a child finds a ChatGPT or a chatbot for legal purposes, it can be a closed circle, posing a question and getting an answer, and sending the child to a parent, but not for legal advices or more information, but talking about the feelings and the emotions, what are there. So I think what a chatbot, what a chatbot can be good for is finding out the legal nature of an issue. Because if I'm a guy, if I'm a child, I know my problem. I have been hurted. My parents divorced. I have a custody issue. But I can't know the legal nature of this issue. So ChatGPT or chatbot or any other kind of AI-supported tools can be very, very useful to help a guy, to help a user, to figuring out the legal nature of an issue. Those have limits, of course, but it's helpful for them. I have been hurted. What is it? It can be a child abuse case or not. Is it a legal thing that answers to my experiences? I think it can be helpful stuff. It has limitations. It doesn't want to be more than just an advice, but still it's important. So from my point of view, the ethical aspect of developing a chatbot is knowing the limitations, but still keeping kids and adults in the same platform. And in our chat service, there were 2 channels, one for adults and one for kids. And when we developed those questions and answers, active chat participation were there. And when you, Heta, just mentioned agency, I think it's really important when a child can understand a quite complex legal issue in a language which is understandable. So providing this feeling of agency through a chat service, I think it's important and also part of the ethical or moral issues of this question?
I see tremendous potential in chatbots and generative AI in supporting some people to express themselves. I hear of people who have trouble initiating communication who can use those to get going. But that comes with a risk, you know, and I know from literature, from my past studies, to some extent, how easily some people with learning difficulties are led. You know how sometimes a very powerful tendency to take their cues from the environment and produce whatever they believe that is wanted of them. So if the AI ends up kind of feeding suggestions or recommendations to the person as to what they should be producing or how they should be feeling about something even, then it may actually lead to a bit of fabrication or creation of something that the person would never have thought themselves. So I see huge responsibility in someone overseeing how these are used, what possible biases there are that are maybe being inadvertently fed to the person with very limited language and very limited initiative. Another issue that's not quite so closely tied to these contexts is the one I mentioned before of using AI in the context of behavioral interventions. This is where the discussion about the risks is only just starting. The discussion about who owns the data, how is consent given, just how intrusive can you be in observing a child. And we're talking about creating sensors to be attached to the child, to have them observed like all the time and their emotions and actions interpreted all the time. That to me seems rather intrusive. And it appears that this is allowed as soon as someone says it is therapy or treatment or research towards those. While the AI Act says, should forbid the use of AI to materially distort the behavior of a person in a manner that is likely to cause significant harm. Who determines the harm? So who is able to enforce that AI Act in this respect? That is an enormous ethical issue that is not being addressed while research on AI and behavioral interventions marches on happily at high speed.
Thank you very much, Heta. It is really indeed an important topic to discuss about the behavioral interventions and the lack of consent in these cases, which is especially important when we are talking about children. And I think that maybe the EU's AI Act has an answer for that. It will also be a question for the future, whether these considerations will be followed and adequate safeguards will be there for vulnerable groups as well. And I also wanted to just come back and reflect just for a short moment to what Szilvi has mentioned about the issue of unauthorized practice of law in case of chatbots, which is also an important issue, and it links us to the liability also of AI solutions, which is also something that is still under development. The EU's directive on that is not yet entered into force. But what I would say is that in this specific chatbots designed for children to provide legal information, I think the most important thing is to stick into the information and not to jump into the legal advice field. So that it's strictly not a legal advice that is provided, but it's something more, general and also some practical information so that children know whom to address in case they need further support or further services that they need to access. And so, I don't know, maybe Giampiero, you still wanted to have something?
Yeah, thank you. So, before coming here, I was listing all the ethical risks related to the use of AI between justice professionals, and I can see that I already checked some of them talking about another context. One of it, hallucination, bias. Consent is also an important thing when we give, let's say, decision-making activities to an automatic system. That is also a huge problem, because in that case we have, above all for public services, we have cases where the people that receive this kind of decision, that are affected by this kind of decision, not always know that an AI system has been used. Related to justice professional, I think we have to think about two important distinctions. First, in the justice system, so talking about judges, tribunals, and court staff, the application of AI is still really marginal. We have many pilots, but not real application, very few application of it. Some of them, okay, in the US context have been very problematic, but still we are on an initial phase. And still there is a huge debate about it. Basically, the main risk that is foresaw is the influence on the independence and impartiality of decision-making of a judge coming from predictive softwares, for instance. And but there are also many others related also related to the use of privacy, confidential data, privacy breaches, etc. And of course, there is the other world of the use of AI in the lawyers' context and environment. And in that case, we don't have just pilots. We had a lot of products also coming from private companies that are developing new systems. And I can say also that with the advent of generative AI, now we are talking about ChatGPT, and basically this is the idea, we have also a submerged use of this kind of systems in the lawyer's environment. And this is, I think, very problematic. We have seen in the US environment some courts that have punished the use of ChatGPT for citing, quoting case law that is inexistent. So it is easy to check that the lawyer in that case used ChatGPT because the case law that has been cited is not existent. And I think this kind of submerged use of ChatGPT is very much diffused. And in fact, we may see that also lawyers' associations are working in order to update the code of conduct or create new policies related to the use of this system in their work environment, because we have a lot of issues and a lot of risks. We have cited hallucination, of course, but we have also a problem of confidentiality. So when you prompt a sentence in ChatGPT and you at the same time are providing confidential information, you don't know where those data are going and who will use this data. And it is also a question that comes to me when I think about the system that you developed. So children access the chatbot, but which kind of policy you are addressing in the case when this kind of user is filing confidential and very sensitive information in the system? I think this is also related to the use of ChatGPT, because if we don't have a system that is in some way controlled by these kind of sources that are, that are there for protecting or supporting children or any kind of other user access to justice, then this kind of user will go to the more generic or general system as ChatGPT, where first of all, they risk of having a biased information, and second, they will provide, or probably they will provide, very sensitive information to this system, which is not managed by a public entity or something like that. It is a private company that will retain those data, and probably we don't even know which kind of use it will be done of this kind of data. So, and as I said, we have many other risks that we should be facing. And, but I think going in the direction of, in context very sensitive as the one that we are working with, so victims of crime, children that want access to justice, etc., having professionals that are involved in the design and development of AI system is really important. Because if we don't have this kind of access to justice, legal information, then the risk is that we have users that will go, or citizens that will go to the generic models, which have a lot of problems, as we are seeing and discussing today.
Yeah, so for example, our chatbot is not able to store and process information. So you can't continue a conversation with the chatbot. You have to start it from the beginning if you want to use it again. The children were complaining about this because they wanted to continue the conversation, but for privacy reasons, it's not possible.
Yes, thank you, Giampiero, for this insightful comments on the automatic decision-making issue, which is also something important to raise in the child protection system, because not in Hungary, but in other parts of the world, we already have such kind of AI tools deployed for risk assessment purposes in the child protection field, which was actually evoked in my conversation with ChatGPT. And in this case, there was a huge issue of confidentiality, of privacy, and all these data related to children. And of course, the decision which was made on that particular child, which was fortunately not based on this false protection report, but it could have been. So these are really important ethical considerations to take into account. But as we are running with our time, I will jump into our next question about, basically I would like to hear some comments on your side about the main consideration that you think should be taken into account when designing and also developing such AI tools in these contexts. So for these target groups that we have already mentioned. And I don't know who is the first one to jump into this.
I would like to talk now about the interdisciplinary cooperation that we, I think, managed to do with tech companies, with legal experts, with psychologists. It was a very complex thing to work with people from different areas. First of all, it was very difficult to translate child rights principles like do no harm, re-traumatization, privacy into AI solutions and integrate these things into the chatbot. And also, on the other hand, so it was very important to educate legal professionals and psychologists and our colleagues about AI, because it was very important to understand these terminologies and technical part to make key decisions, like, for example, we want a generative chatbot or a rule-based chatbot. So we had to know these terminologies. So it was a complex thing, and I would like to mention the most important part, the child participation part, because as I have already mentioned, we worked with the child advisory boards, and they participated in a design and development phase as well. However, we had 3 test phases. First, we tested the chatbot with adults because we wanted to make it sure that the chatbot is safe. Then we gave it to the children, and we had another testing period. In that test, CAB members and other children also participated. We organized focus group discussions and individual interviews. We collected these information feedbacks basically and tried to explain to the tech company. And yes, it was always a challenge to explain them what we want, but they were very cooperative, so it was not a problem. So
these are matters that are hugely important to us. And we are just learning in our project about this. Like I showed you the research on autism. Now, marches on in the diagnosis and intervention fields, these are matters that we feel are neglected. Therefore, we are lifting up and trying to give visibility to the kinds of research that we want. Like tomorrow's webinar will talk about AI and accessibility for autistic people, about the potential of AI in the AAC, that's augmentative and alternative communication, and AI and robotics for autistic people. And these are all in very early stages. And it means any application, any you develop, you need to have many of us involved for long periods. We do not have a recipe to give to anyone like this is how it's going to work. And as we talk to each other, we also discover the range of needs within the spectrum. It's huge. We have people who can barely do anything with a computer, and we actually have the people who are developing AI and everything in between. And we cannot bring our own activists often to any shared platform to talk online because they need very different things. So it's hard work, and we wish that there were more projects that really took a long, hard look at this and involved us more than in just brief consultations. It takes repeated sessions of work to make it function properly.
As I mentioned, our project is rooted in the frustration of a child rights lawyer that we can't answer all the cases, and the demand is huge and immense, and child rights violations, the number of the cases are just huge, and we need more child rights lawyer, and we would like to give agency to the kids and to the families to represent themselves. And I really deeply believe that in a society, access to justice is key to democracy, is key to functioning our institutions. So our chat service at first hand wanted to provide basic and fundamental information. Of course, child participation was an integrated part. Of course, we had to be sure that our answers have high quality and understandable. And to be honest, if you translate a text to the language of the child, is more understandable for the adults also. And finding a good language which is legally accurate but still understandable for normal people, it's really something. So maybe this is the point I would like to offer our already developed content for you, for your chatbot, because as I heard, we more or less worked on the same project. So if it's useful for you, of course, it's absolutely available for you, what we have already developed in Hungarian. So we had a lot of concern, and I believe that privacy issues, data protection, biases, and all those stuff are really important. But I'm working in the Hungarian child protection system, so I know that all the professionals in the system are biased, and data protection is really not provided, and privacy is violated so many times, which doesn't mean that we don't have to take attention to the EI-related dimension of these issues, but I would like to emphasize, but still the human world have some challenges in this field too. So we have to be correct, and we have to improve our working environment and the quality of our services in relation to AI tools, but also in relation to the human service providers.
So I think I really agree with you when you talk about multidisciplinarity for the development of this kind of system, and also I think the involvement of stakeholders, let's say, when we are testing the system and applying to a real work environment. And but I think also another thing is important for me is a continuous monitoring of the system. Above all related to the fact that the system should in some way reflect the norms and the values that are at the basis of our requirements that are guiding its development. And I think this kind of monitoring is much more important when we are more risk. And the higher risk is related to more autonomous kind of system. The more the system is autonomous, the more it is risky. And you have to imagine that, I mean, we had some discussion by mail regarding, let's say, how much this kind of AI system can affect norms, so their influence on normativity. And the discussion with any kind of application of ICT in justice has been related to how much the code represents a norm. In fact, the idea was the code is the law. This was the most famous sentence from a famous publication related to this kind of arguments. But now I think the real problem is that we have not only a code that is a law, but also a code that is a source of law. Because the much this kind of systems are autonomous, the more they can have the possibility to create new kind of norms. In fact, they work basically similarly to a common law system, by adjustment and by application. And they learn by doing, actually. So the idea is they start with a code, but then they learn by doing by themselves. So the control on this kind of system is very tough. You imagine the monitoring on the hate speech in the internet. In some platforms, we have AI systems that are dedicated to this kind of monitoring, and they learn by doing. So at the start, and they began with the values, with the norms that drove the requirements on which the development has been based. But then they adjust in the making. And so we don't have that much control on their decision. In fact, their kind of monitoring starts to be biased. It can be different from the initial idea of the developers, because we have, of course, an autonomous system. And I think this also is affected by the difficulty in understanding how this system works when they start to work autonomously. And this is an aspect of transparency, which is an important fundamental value in justice related to procedure, how procedure works, how the norm is applied, etc. But in the case of this kind of system, the problem is that even developers at some point have the black box problem, so they don't know how this system is behaving. So to end this intervention, I think it is complex, and also the implication of the application of this system in many environments is still to be seen, and also the AI Act is going in the direction of monitoring more and more. In fact, one aspect of the EU AI Act is on the monitoring on the incidents happening with the use of AI. I think this is very important. This is something that I think it is motivated from other industrial contexts. We imagine aviation, for instance. And I think we will also learn by doing. We will learn the implication of their use by doing, and so a constant monitoring is important, and the monitoring should imply also the involvement of different kind of expertise. So multidisciplinarity is very important.
Thank you very much. As we are running out of time, and I really want to have enough time for questions and answers, I will just wrap up this very exciting discussion that would have been really great to continue, but maybe some next time. And let's give now the floor for the questions. So if there is someone maybe assisting us with the mic, and you could just raise your hand, and then we will be going there. And okay, Bruno.
Thank you, everyone. I really enjoyed the discussion. I have so many questions. I understand we're limited with time, so I'll stick to one, and it's going to be for Heta. One thing, an AI concrete application that I read about in, I believe it was in the US, where just professionals were trialing using facial recognition systems to identify if a person is autistic or not. Do you believe that's a good use of AI to perform individual assessments within the justice system to identify whether a person is autistic or not, or?
In the justice system, no. That is one of the many, like I showed, over 1,000 attempts to help diagnose autism. Diagnosis cannot be done in the justice system. And one of our biggest concerns is this kind of thing is done without proper care and human oversight. So anything like that, at least among the autistic communities, the feeling is that they can become screening tools, but that should only lead to proper diagnosis and not be trusted as such, no matter what form it is. And I think also facial expressions are really problematic in this sense. They have proven notoriously bad at helping people to determine emotional states. It just hasn't happened.
Is there anyone else? Or maybe Bruno can ask the second question.
Thank you. Actually, it's a question from the chat, from someone online. So what are the key elements that should be included in AI legislation and policy to ensure protection of children with disabilities?
Who wants to proceed for this interesting question on the inclusion of what kind of legislation, if I remember well, the question should be imposed or implemented vis-à-vis children with disabilities when it comes to?
Don't work directly with children with disabilities. I mean, I'm working in a project for victims with children with disability, actually. So, but I think first of all that we should think about the application of, for instance, in the EU environment of the EU AI Act at the national level in the European member states, and see how this will be applied. I have to think that the direction it goes in the right direction. In fact, it provides very important policies for high-risk kind of systems. And all the systems that we talked about, for instance, the systems that are related to the support on decision-making are all, of course, high risk. And I think that the idea is at the moment, for what regards children and also children with disability, I think the problem regards also the inclusion and how much this kind of system can allow the involvement and the participation of users in a broad sense to this kind of system. But at the same time, I think when we have persons, like for instance victims, vulnerable victims that have access to this system, we have to think also on the risks that they will face using AI systems. And so we will need, I think, several layers of protection that address all the risks that we were talking about today. So first of all, privacy, confidential information, transparency, etc. And so I think, first of all, a generic, let's say, legislation should be, it is important, and we are going the right direction, I think, but we will see how the AI Act will be applied at the national level, but also then we will need more specific legislation that at least in some countries, I'm talking for instance in the Italian environment, should be connected to what it is already existent. Because we have already a legislation, for instance, related to the involvement and participation of persons with disability online, in the internet. And so we need also this kind of a connection. And so I think this is my attempt to answer to this very difficult question. Thank you.
I would like to add just one thing, because we talk a lot about privacy and data protection, but we maybe never mention digital safeguarding, and I think it's really important to integrate digital tools to the safeguarding system, and it definitely needs legislation, and it definitely needs to push through these kind of new legal norms to the national parliaments and also to the EU, because we have lots of things have to face and solve them.
Thank you. Is there any other question remaining unanswered? If not, then I will just really thank my panelists for this exciting conversation and for the audience for the participation. And I will just hand over the floor to our... No, I have just one announcement to say, is that if we will see now on the screen a QR code at the bottom of the screen, shortly, and you are maybe invited to fill in our survey for this conference, like a participation survey with a couple of questions. So, okay, once it will be visible, you could just go there and QR code it, and please do fill this out because it's good for the EU project monitoring. Okay, thank you again, once again, thanks.